More than 300 bodies have been found in shallow graves.
Welcome to the vast land of the afterlife. Where the tapestry of existence is woven with threads of silence and anticipation. Here, every soul, whether tender in youth or seasoned by time, whether of the masculine or feminine essence, refrains from the substance of the living as they ready themselves for the end times and a celestial rendezvous with the divine. This is a story of faith twisted into tragedy. Nestled within the heart of an 800-acre emerald sea, this secluded enclave thrives in the embrace of Kenya's southern eastern wilderness. A place where time itself seems to pause. Here, amid its towering sentinels of ancient trees and whispering leaves, there dwells a hidden community, like a jewel in the forest crown. Their lives flow like a gentle, unseen river, undisturbed by the outside world's clamor, cocooned in a verdant haven where the air is thick with the scent of earth and the melody of birdsong. In this remote sanctuary, the rhythms of nature dictate the temple of existence, and the pulse of the outside world beats as a distant echo, barely felt but ever present. An eerie silence cloaks the village, as if the air itself has grown heavy with forgotten whispers. The once bustling hamlet now stands as a spectral tableau, hauntingly dissolute, rows of forsaken mud huts. Their makuti thatched roofs, standing like ghostly sentinels, remain stoically in place, as though frozen in a timeless vigil. The vibrant pulse of life has faded, leaving only the somber echoes of what once was. The bushland pathways lie shrouded in a profound hush, as though the village's entire populace had evaporated into the ether, leaving only the faintest trace of their presence. Scattered amidst the silence are a few well-known household remnants, Bibles lying in fragmented disarray, a stark witness to a hurried and mysterious exodus.
Tulipokuwa katika dini miaka mingi, maana tumepitia sote katika dini, na leo tunasimama na kusema ya kuwa ni kinga kilichotolewa motoni. Hallelujah.
Meet Pastor Ndenge Mackenzie.
Tulipitia huko kwa dini sote, na kama si kwa neema ya Yesu, tungelikuwa miongoni mwa wale ambao wanaenda kuangamizwa.
A figure as enigmatic as a riddle wrapped in a mystery, whose teachings blend the ancient whispers of animism with the fervent blaze of radical Christianity.
Sijui Yesu ametupendea nini, na akaacha watu wenye majina maarufu, akaacha watu ambao wana vyeo vya kuheshimiwa na wanadamu hapa duniani, lakini watu ovyo ovyo, watu wasio.
He is a trailblazer in the spiritual landscape, steering the pot with his bold and unconventional beliefs, leaving his congregation both mesmerized and provoked.
Tukadanganywa na mafunzo ya vitabu vilivyoandikwa na vilivyotungwa na wanadamu, na vikapita kwa dini, tukafundishwa, tukaambiwa shetani alikuwa malaika kabla ajaasi, kabla hajainua kiburi chake.
A family that lost 7 relatives in the Shakahola massacre.
The grisly shadow of 429 murders in Shakahola was cast into the glaring spotlight by a missing person report, sparked by a local teacher whose wife and daughter had vanished into the clashes of a nearby church. This tragic revelation set the police on a grim hunt across the sprawling 800-acre expanse, where they unearthed shallow graves and discovered additional survivors, emaciated and on the brink of death, depriving themselves in a desperate bid to ascend to heaven. The days and nights unfolded like a relentless roller coaster, each hour a fresh jolt of shocking news that electrified the nation. Headlines flashed like lightning bolts across the sky, illuminating a landscape marred by the thunderous echoes of disbelief and astonishment.
Whose leader convinced its members to starve themselves to death.
The very fabric of time seemed woven with threads of turmoil and intrigue, leaving the nation suspended in a surreal, ever-shifting tapestry of shock.
Ni ya kufunga hadi mwisho. Tumuone Yesu alicho. Saku tunaishi kama nyani basi.
Some of the victims may have had their organs harvested.
We as Christians, we would like to know the truth. What is happening in Shakahola?
In one of the world's most nightmarish cult tragedies in recent decades, the tale of Shakahola unfurled like a macabre epic, growing ever more grotesque with each passing day. As the grim procession of exhumed bodies stretched endlessly, the earth seemed to weep and shudder with the horror of the revelations. Meanwhile, anguished families emerged from the shadows, their voices breaking the silence as they reported loved ones swallowed by the darkness.
Nilipofanywa DNA, nimebeba kupata mtoto mmoja ambaye ni Rukia Masha. Hawa wawili bado sijapata, Sara na Pili bado sijapata.
Each new report deepened the abyss of despair, painting a chilling portrait of a community ensnared in a relentless nightmare. In the harrowing graves, the police unearthed the tragic tableau of a family's final resting place, the somber remains of 5 souls, including 3 children and their parents, nestled together in eternal slumber. Nearby, another grave held a grim congregation of up to 6 individuals, while yet another crypt contained the heart-wrenching sight of 12 children, their young lives extinguished too soon. Scattered across the forest floor, some bodies lie like forgotten autumn leaves, their lifeless forms a silent testament to the forest's dark, sorrowful secrets. Authorities unearthed an haunting parade of emaciated souls. Their bodies gaunt and ghostly, as if hunger had drained them of their very essence. Among them was a particularly harrowing sight, an individual who had been entombed in the earth's cold embrace for 3 agonizing days. Their desperate struggle, a silent scream echoing through the very depths of the forest earth. The nightmarish spectacle chastened the Shakahola massacre by virtually every local news outlet, left the government grappling like a ship lost in a stormy sea of confusion.
What we are seeing in Kilifi, in Shakahola, is akin to terrorists.
In a country priding itself on being one of Africa's most modern and stable, the revelation of such horrific events unfolding unchecked in a stretch of land nestled between two famed tourism havens was akin to a shadowy blemish on a gleaming jewel. The authorities were left to untangle the mystery of how such macabre activities could have remained hidden in plain sight for so long. The explanations struggling to pierce through the fog of disbelief and scandal.
Hatutakubali watu wachache, wakora wengine na wahalifu wanaojificha kwa dini kufanya uhalifu. Kama vile tumepata pigo kubwa pale msitu wa Shakahola.
On May 26, 2023, then Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki dropped a bombshell that rocked the nation.
Mr. Mackenzie had employed armed criminals to supervise starvation, and if any person changed their mind, they will be clobbered to death, strangulated to death, or otherwise killed.
When the cameras glide into his sphere, he doesn't flinch or seek refuge. Instead, he strikes a poised pose and launches into a lengthy, guiltless sermon as if rehearsing a well-worn play.
Na alimuumba shetani kwa kazi yake maalum. Hivyo jua leo ya kwamba shetani pia naye ni mtumishi anayetumiwa na Yesu kunyorosha.
In these moments of polished oratory, it's almost inconceivable that this televangelist is nurturing one of Kenya's darkest religious catastrophes. His facade, a flawless mask concealing the shadows of his own macabre drama.
Education ile aliyokuwa mwanadamu anafundishwa na anayofundishwa mpaka sasa haitoki kwa Mungu, bali inatoka kwa Waroma na Waingereza na Waarabu na Waamerika. Inatoka kwa hao. Ama yatoka mbinguni? Niambieni ukweli.
With the launch of Times TV, a gospel channel that broadcasted his increasingly fiery sermons like a blazing comet across the skies, Mr. Mackenzie extended his influence far beyond the Kenyan coast.
So there are lots of changes happening around the world. We are moving quickly towards a cashless society. A time when no one can buy or sell unless you have that mark in the right hand or in the forehead.
His words, once confined to the local sands, now surged through airwaves like a powerful tidal wave, reaching far-flung shores and expanding his realm with a fervent reach that transcended borders. Pastor Mackenzie was hauled into the legal spotlight on 4 formidable charges, including the specters of radicalization and the incitement of extremist beliefs. He faced these allegations like a storm-battered ship, boldly declaring his innocence. In a dramatic courtroom twist, he emerged unscathed, his name cleared like a sky after a tempest, and the accusations against him dissipated into nothingness. After a year retreating into the verdant heart of the Shakahola forest to lay the foundation of a new holy land in anticipation of the world's final curtain call, the arrival of COVID-19 pandemic in Kenya seemed to validate his apocalyptic prophecy.
Sasa angalieni ni nini kitaenda kupata hii dunia kuanzia sasa. Angalieni ni nini kitaenda kupata mataifa yote ya dunia. Hasira na ghadhabu.
The pandemic's arrival was like a dark omen descending from the heavens, turning his long-held warnings into a grim reality and casting his message in the stark light of prophecy fulfilled. Hundreds flocked to the sprawling 800 acres, drawn by a magnetic pull as irresistible as a siren's call. According to the police testimonies, this verdant sanctuary was a forbidden realm, where mingling with the outside world was as unthinkable as mingling with the shadows. If they wished to secure their passage to heaven, the land became a sacred fortress, where isolation was the key to divine ascent, and the outside world was a distant echo, lost in the whispering leaves. They were instructed to obliterate every shred of government-issued documentation, as if erasing traces of their existence itself. National IDs and birth certificates were to be reduced to nothing more than wisps of smokes disappearing into the ether, as if they were casting away the very threads of their identity in a ritualistic cleansing.
Sheria haiokoi, sheria inaua. Tegemeo lote la dini za dunia na serikali za dunia ni sheria, katiba. Serikali kila siku inakuambia the rule of law. Hiyo ndio nguzo ya serikali, kuonesha ya kwamba dini na serikali ni vitengo vya ibilisi.
Consumed by a growing frenzy over the impending apocalypse, Mr. Mackenzie unleashed a new wave of directives in January 2021 to the throngs who had migrated to his newly established Holy Land. This sacred expanse, now segmented into districts bearing biblical names like Jericho and Jerusalem, seemed less a collection of lands and more a spiraling map of prophetic dreams. Each district a chapter in an unfolding divine epic. The instructions outlined a chilling choreography of death, a macabre symphony where the children were the first to fall, their young lives extinguished like the first flickers of a dying flame. Next in the grim sequence were the youths, followed by the women. Each stage a somber note in this orchestra of despair. The men, like the last actors in a tragic play, were to linger longer. Their role, to entomb the fallen as they awaited their own turn in this ghastly ritual of starvation. The final curtain call was reserved for Mackenzie and his family, their demise set to unfold as the closing act of this dark divine drama. They were to be the last souls to surrender to death, marking the culmination of the Lord's work with their own departure, a final solemn tribute to their apocalyptic mission. As dawn broke, the sky itself seemed to blaze with the fury of the public's outrage. The air was thick with the anguished cries of families, their voices rising like a mournful symphony as they searched desperately for their lost loved ones.
Nilipofika pale nikapeana list ya majina na picha, wakaniambia, madam, hatuna watoto kama hao hapa.
Meanwhile, police land cruisers rolled down the roads like thunderclaps racing towards the controversial pastor. Their approach was a signal of justice finally gaining momentum, a beacon of hope piercing through the tempest of grief and rage that had engulfed the country. Arriving at the police station, the unbothered televangelist had one word for the rest of the world.